Hello and welcome back to Book and Page. So we are finally getting started on Euripides the Bacchae. Oh, exciting times. Time to watch Dionysus ruin some people's lives. Yay! So keep in mind, there are places in this play that I personally find come off as a comedy. But the thing you really got to keep in mind is it is not. This is a tragedy, it's a Greek tragedy, so there are going to be people who suffer. We just have to figure out who those people are suffering, why they're suffering, how they're suffering, things like that. So let's get into it. The first bit we actually have is a prologue. So the play itself begins with Dionysus taking human form. And he provides some exposition about why he has returned to Thebes. So we get a couple things. Thebes is the birthplace of his mother, Semele, and it was founded by Semele's father, Cadmus. So Dionysus' grandfather founded Thebes. But Thebes is also where Semele died, and in fact, one of the very first things that Dionysus does is point out to us, hey look, that's where my mom died. The place is still smoking because she was hit by a lightning bolt. Yay. Thank you, Dionysus, for that. So, we also get this note that people have actually been claiming that Dionysus is not, in fact, son of Zeus. Because they made the argument that Semele is in fact, well, she was sleeping around, and blaming a god is a quick way to get out of it. So she claimed that, yeah, no, my kid is actually the kid of Zeus, and Zeus struck her down because that was a lie. So we've got these two versions of events going around. The human version and then the god version, as it were. And right from the beginning it should be noted, you might want to trust the god on this one. Okay, so the fact that even Semele's, like, sisters and other family members are claiming this, it's a little upsetting. It's a little upsetting. So Dionysus has actually come into Thebes, and he sent all the women of Thebes, including his aunts, out into a Bacchic madness, and they're running wild in the woods and up in the mountain, just going mad. So Dionysus, with this plan, is fully expecting the current king of Thebes, Pentheus, who's technically his cousin. He's the son of his mother's sister, so yeah, they're cousins, to go to war with him over this. So Dionysus' full plan seems to be, let him come to war, I'm gonna destroy him. I'm a god. I'm here to prove I'm a god. So after this little info dump, Dionysus heads out to join the women in the mountain, and the chorus enters. And interestingly enough, we do have sort of a specific explanation for the chorus and how it functions. Because I mentioned in the last video about Greek theater that they're usually sort of there to represent how the audience should be feeling. But a lot of these plays do start to play with that. We'll see another version of this in the Oedipus Rex trilogy, but in the Bacchae, they're not really an audience surrogate. They're there as an extension of Dionysus, because this chorus is in fact initiates in the Bacchic mysteries who have come with Dionysus from Asia into Thebes. So they're, like, specifically siding with the god, which again, if you're used to the idea that this should be the audience perspective, that gives you a clear idea of who we as an audience should be siding with. It's the one that might smite you if you don't. So, Dionysus has this group of initiates as the chorus, and they come in to sing a song at the end of the prologue. And their song is really a call for people to come and join in the Bacchic festivals. It's the festival of Dionysus. You really should be out dancing and having fun in the mountains. So we do get a little more information in this song. We get a bit of a history about the birth of Dionysus, and that whole bit. An idea of how the Bacchic rites and festivals work. We got ivory in our hair. The initiates apparently have live snakes in their hair. We're wearing deer skins. We're out dancing. And also, we get an idea of the madness out in the woods. And not just the people running mad, but nature itself has got a little haywire. We get the idea that wine and milk are springing up from grounds and rocks. And literally Dionysus has provided this so that, we can dance. We can dance and we can drink. So yeah, it's a little weird. We haven't actually met any of our, purely human characters yet. The characters we have met, which are Dionysus and our chorus, are, well, one is a god, and two is the chorus is very deeply connected with Dionysus the god. So it's hard to say that they're human, and when you watch this performed with a really good chorus, it certainly comes across as inhuman, because if they can hit that speaking in perfect time with each other, especially when there's an emotion to it and there's a movement, you definitely get this sense of something greater than itself. One of the performances I saw of this, every time a name for one of the gods was mentioned, there was a celebration in that name. It was a recognition that this is a god's name. Zeus. So you really do, when you're watching these people, think, okay, this is weird, but you also want to be siding with them. You don't want to be shut out. This is a play about what happens when you're shut out. So you don't want to be shut out. So that's sort of the action for the scene. Like I said, it's a whole lot of talking, but that's to be expected with Greek tragedies. Very little of the action is happening on stage itself. We're simply going to be told about it afterwards. So the fact that we haven't seen the women go mad purely in the script sense, a lot of performances might show that happening to you, but nope, we're not getting that. It's going to be a lot of talking from here on out. So let's consider some of the things that we've been told. And like I said, this is definitely a play about a god. This is Dionysus's play. It's performed at Dionysus's festival, and it's about his other festivities. It's about the Bacchic madness. And you'll notice throughout this play, as you're reading along, there are a lot of names for Dionysus. Dionysus and Bacchus are the big ones, but there's also the term the Thunderer. Zeus refers to him as a completely different name. I think that means twice born. So don't be surprised when we suddenly get different names coming in, but the reason why it's called a Bacchic madness is because it belongs to Bacchus, which is another word for Dionysus. So when we did my discussion of Greek theater, I mentioned that originally with this festival, all the plays were about Dionysus, and then they moved on to include other myths and heroes and gods. But this is certainly a return to those roots. He is the first character we meet, and the chorus is specifically on his side. So right from the prologue, we're centering this play around Dionysus in Thebes in regards to his family, but the center, the very core of this, is Dionysus himself. And that's why we're given his history in the prologue. And that's both his recent history, he talks about his journey here and what countries he traveled through, but also his extended history. We get his birth and we get his activities as a god. So just keeping that in mind, that Dionysus is supposed to be in the right here. Right from the beginning, we're getting his perspective, and he is, in fact, a god. But that might start making us feel uncomfortable as we're going through. Right now, maybe not so much, but once we start meeting the human characters, we're going to have to figure out how Dionysus being in the right makes us actually feel. Because, don't forget, this is a tragedy. A lot of this is going to go wrong. There isn't really a point of forgiveness for all of these people. They've disrespected Dionysus, and he's here to repay that in kind. But that's always going to be a question for us, because we're human. And we have a different idea of justice than most of the gods are going to. Just like with a lot of tragedies, we actually get upset because this is a good person that's suffering through very little fault of their own. And you'll see this with other stories. When fate makes it so a person can't get out of that, we think that's unfair. And we think it's unfair when the gods just beat up a person because they were a really good artist and Apollo took offense. Or they spun fabric really well, so Athena took offense. That doesn't always seem fair to us. But that's because we're humans, and these are the gods. So this is always going to be a weird feeling that we're actually feeling going through. And it's always interesting when you get gods admitting that they got involved. Like, Dionysus is unafraid of admitting it. He's like, well, I'm the one doing this. Have fun with that. Because a lot of, like, a lot of the epics, we see it happening, but it's not from the point of view of the gods itself. And a lot of other tragedies, we might hear gods referred to, but are they going to come down and be like, yep, my fault, my fault? No. No. But Dionysus here is owning it. Like, yeah, them going mad, that was me. All the violence that's about to happen. He's been insulted. And he's responding to that insult at a different level than all of us are expecting. But again, he's also a different level from us entirely. So we're going to have to walk that tightrope line of between he's a god and still a recognition of how is this making us feel. How is the play itself presenting this argument, and how is it making us feel about these actions? So let's talk about the insult, because we need to figure out why Dionysus is doing all of this. Maybe if we can get down to the root of the problem, we'll understand his actions more. So the big issue is he is the son of Zeus and the human woman Semele. And Semele died by lightning bolt. And people are saying that it was because Semele claimed that he was the son of Zeus. To cover up, again, somebody else being in her bed. So we, as the audience, right away know that's a false story. Because we've got Dionysus and the chorus telling us he is the son of Zeus. Zeus actually protected him. And that's sort of the interesting thing, because we've been informed right from the beginning that Hera was involved. When Dionysus points out, yep, that still burning house, it's still smoking house over there, that's where my mom died, he actually says it's still smoking, because that's Hera's wrath. Undying wrath. What? What? Why do we have Hera involved? Well, okay. Let's go for the general story of Dionysus' existence. So, Zeus is a life-giving god, which means he's gonna have a lot of kids. And the weird thing about the Greek pantheon is we have a life-giving god in the Olympians, Zeus, and we have a life-giving goddess, Demeter. This would seem like a good idea. We put the life-giving god and goddess together, and then when that turns into a lot of sleeping around, it's not a problem because both of them are life-giving beings. That didn't happen. What happened in the Greek pantheon is we have a life-giving god, Zeus, and a goddess of marriage in Hera. This pairing doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because in marriage, it's expected to be, you know, a sort of a separate thing, and you don't sleep around, especially without your significant other's permission. So when you put a life-giving god with a marriage goddess, you're going to get a whole lot of gods hating on each other. They did have one kid, that was Hephaestus, and then something went terribly wrong, and Zeus grabbed him and tossed him off of Mount Olympus, which is why his leg got twisted. Maybe it was because he was really ugly, maybe it was because he was attempting to defend his mother. There's a couple legends about that one. And after that point, there isn't... there is not another child from this pairing of Zeus and Hera. Hera has, again, within the legends, another kid. Supposedly, she created Ares, the god of war, from a head of lettuce, and all of her rage. But practically every other Olympian that's connected to Zeus is an extramarital affair. A lot of them are with the Titan goddesses, so the one step up from where the Olympians are. That includes Apollo and his twin Artemis. Yeah, so that's a thing. Athena, Athena sprung fully formed from her father Zeus's head, but only after he swallowed another Titan woman. Yep. Metis got swallowed, and Athena showed up. And then we have Dionysus. So Dionysus is one of the very new gods to the pantheon. And in fact, he's considered a foreign god, and a lot of people believe that his worship began into the East, into Asia, and then came back to Greece. And that's why they invented this really weird story for Dionysus. But Zeus saw Semele and was like, hey. So Semele and Zeus get it on, and boom, Semele is pregnant. And again, there are a couple versions of these stories. Keep in mind that there are always going to be a couple versions, because writing them down isn't how they started. A lot of these started as verbal stories. So there's always going to be a switch. The one I know most well is that Semele tells her family, hey, I'm pregnant with Zeus's kid, and her sisters don't believe her. And her sisters are like, it's somebody claiming to be Zeus. It ain't Zeus. It's somebody claiming to be Zeus. And she's saying, well, no, I think it's actually Zeus. So they say to her, then you need to figure out that it is Zeus. You need to go to him and ask to see his true form. If you ever find yourself in this situation, don't do that. No human being is supposed to see a god or goddess in their true form. You can't stand it, okay? So, maybe you recognize them. Maybe they're disguised and you're like, I think you're actually Athena. Like, Odysseus does that. But Odysseus ain't like, hey Athena, show me your real self. And not in like the sexual way. I mean like, show me your godliness. Don't do it. It's not a good plan. So Semelea's like, this is what it's gonna take, fine. And then up in Olympus, Hera gets involved because Hera always does. Hera's the one usually smiting a lot of Zeus's lovers. So she, in some stories, either tricks Zeus into giving her a lightning bolt, or tricks Zeus into not refusing any requests that Semele may ask of him. So she either directly hits this poor woman with a lightning bolt, or she directly assists in this plan that the sisters made to show Zeus's true form to this woman and have her disintegrate instantly. So either way, Hera really. So the next time Zeus and Semele are getting all buddy-buddy, Semele is like, hey, can I ask a favor? And Zeus, again, sort of the trickery of Hera, says, I can't refuse anything for you, boo. What do you need? And she says, I need to see your true form. And he's like, please take it back. Because he can't say no, but she can take it back. And she's like, I can't take it back. Because I'm now doubting that you're actually a god. I am now thinking that maybe you've told me you're a god so that we'd sleep together. So I can't take it back. And Zeus is like, can you please take it back? And she's like, I'm not gonna take it back. And the more you refuse this, the more I'm pretty sure that you're just some stupid human and I've been tricked. And Zeus is like, boom! And she disintegrates. Like just fire and lightning and thunder, and Semele is dead. Like just dead. And Zeus is like, fuck. So he grabs the kid, he grabs the unborn child of Semele, who he's just disintegrated, and he sews him into his thigh. And this, one, hides him from Hera, and two, it means the kid is going to survive. So eventually, sort of like Athena sprung fully formed from Zeus's head, Dionysus eventually springs fully formed from his father's thigh. And everyone's like, ah! Hey Dionysus, we only got 12 chairs, and that's already like kicking poor Hades and Persephone over there. And like Dionysus comes in, and Dionysus is not a demigod. He is a full god because of that whole being born out of his father's thigh thing. So there's like some tension, and eventually Hestia, who is never mentioned in these things, she's one of the sisters to Zeus. She's part of that original group from Kronos. Actually stands up from her chair and says, I will give him my seat. And she goes and she sits down by the hearth in the middle of the Olympus chairs, and she tends the hearth. So while there's no shrines to Hestia, every hearth is actually a shrine to Hestia, because she's sitting there tending it. And Dionysus gets to sit and be a god, despite Hera hating it. So that's the basic story of Dionysus, and why Hera might be involved. But the issue is, when you look at that, there are sort of two groups at fault here. One is Semelea's sisters, and the other is Hera. It's even worse if you consider the idea that Hera might have planted the idea in Semelea's sisters' heads to request this specifically. So why are we not at war? Why are we in Thebes bothering the poor little humans? Why aren't we at war with Hera? Because it never works that way. You don't fight amongst the gods. There are a few stories where it does happen. It doesn't end well. So normally what you do is you fight it out among the humans, with some godly kids thrown in, but it's fine, because it's just the humans. The Trojan War is fully a fight between three goddesses. It's Aphrodite on one side and Athena and Hera on the other. But are they going to fight it out? No, because they're better than that. So we're going to fight it out among the humans. It's not a surprise that Dionysus is here bothering the people of Thebes instead of trying to fight his mother-in-law Hera. But that's the other thing, is part of the argument is the disrespect to Semelel, but it really isn't the main part. It's a disrespect to Dionysus. These people have said, I'm not a god. That's actually what we're fighting about. That is the insult that has led Dionysus to Thebes. Coolio. So if anyone was hoping that it was going to be some real deep, meaningful insult, maybe not to us humans, but again, to the gods, yes, that is an insult. Never say a god is not a god. That just gets us... it gets us disintegrated. Okay, this video is getting a little long, so just quickly at the end, I would like to mention that the prologue offers some interesting parallels between Dionysus and his father Zeus. In the chorus's song, they actually give us sort of some histories of both Zeus and Dionysus being born and thus being hidden. Zeus, of course, was hidden from his father Kronos, who was swallowing all his kids. So they hid Zeus in a cave, well, they hid Zeus's mother in a cave, and then a bunch of nymphs beat some drums while she was in her birthing pains, and then Zeus was born, and they switched a rock out for him and gave the rock to Kronos to swallow instead of the baby. So, geez, does this sound like a weird little thing comparison to Dionysus, who was also hidden in his father's thigh to prevent Hera from interfering, and, some weird births, some co-parents not really enjoying this. It's an interesting parallel because the chorus doesn't have to mention Zeus's birth, but it does. So it's something we should keep in mind. And that's another thing that we do need to keep in mind, is we're not just being told by Dionysus that he is in fact a god. We're having like a very distinct line to the father of Olympus. Zeus, the king of Olympus. So, disrespect on that level, we are a step away from Zeus. And with that in mind, both of them will smite you. Are we going to get to some smiting? We're going to get to some smiting. Not the next video, though. We are going to meet some of our male cast, because all the women are running mad in the woods. But we're going to meet some Theban males next time. So I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.